"Be grateful to my wife for the dinner, old woman." Tyler's shout pierced through the entire house. Before I could even react, I felt his hand on the back of my neck, shoving my head down, dangerously close to the steaming plate sitting on the table. The smell of the food mixed with the bitter taste of humiliation in my mouth. "Whoa, calm down." She used my groceries from the store inside my kitchen. "You two have gone crazy." The words scraped out of my throat with difficulty as I tried to lift my head. But the pressure of his hand did not let up. Ashley was standing on the other side of the table, arms crossed, wearing a smile that chilled my blood. It was that same smile I had learned to fear over the last few months. $10,000. Margaret. That is what a dinner like this costs. I cooked, I served, I prepped everything. You just have to pay what is fair. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it was going to burst. $10,000. For cooking with the meat that I bought, with the vegetables I brought from the supermarket this very morning, in the pots and pans I have used for 20 years. Inside my house. $10,000. Are you listening to what your wife is saying, Tyler? This is insanity. Finally, I managed to break free from my son's grip. I backed away from the table, staring at both of them as if they were two strangers who had broken in to rob me. Because that was exactly what they were doing, robbing me. In my own home. Tyler took a step toward me, his face red with fury. His eyes were no longer the eyes of the boy I raised. They were the eyes of a man who had decided his mother no longer deserved respect. "Mom, Ashley spent 3 hours cooking for us. Do you know what that means? Do you know how much her time is worth? Her time? And what about my money? And my food? And my house? Does that not rely on anything?" Ashley let out a short, dry laugh, full of disdain. She walked over to the table and started serving herself more food, as if nothing were happening. As if she had not just demanded $10,000 for using my own resources. "Margaret, you just do not understand how the modern world works. Labor has a price. I am not your maid. If you want me to cook, you have to pay. It is that simple. That simple." As if it were the most normal thing in the world. As if I were a customer in a restaurant and not the owner of this house. As if the last 6 months living under my roof, eating my food, using my water, my electricity, my gas, meant absolutely nothing. That same day, you two lost not only the place where you were living. The words left my mouth before I could stop them. It was a promise I did not know how to keep yet, but I felt it in every fiber of my body. Something inside me had broken. Something that was beyond repair. Tyler laughed. A horrible, mocking laugh that cut through me like shattered glass. "Are you going to kick us out, Mom? Your own son? The only one who takes care of you in your old age? Please, you do not have the guts." And maybe he was right. In that moment, as I watched them both standing in my kitchen, eating my food, breathing my air, using every piece of what I had built with my own hands, maybe I did not have the guts. Not yet, but something had started to wake up inside me. Something cold. Something calculated. Something that had been asleep for years under layers and layers of maternal guilt, of fear, of loneliness, of terror of losing the only child I had left in this world. I stood there, staring at the plate on the table, the food that Ashley had prepared with my ingredients, the rice I bought, the beans I cooked yesterday that she just reheated, the chicken I paid for with my Social Security check this month. Everything was there, served on my plates, on my table, inside my house, and they wanted me to pay for that. $10,000 for eating in my own home. "I am not going to pay you a single cent, Ashley." The words came out firm this time. No trembling, no fear, just the naked, raw truth, inevitable. Ashley's face transformed. The smile vanished and was replaced by something dark, something menacing. She leaned in toward me, so close I could smell her cheap perfume mixed with the smell of the food. "Then make your own food from now on, old woman, and do not expect me to lift a finger in this house ever again." Perfect. That is exactly what I want. Tyler slammed his fist on the table. The plates jumped, the glass of water tipped over, spilling onto the tablecloth my mother had given me 30 years ago. Nobody did anything to clean it up. We just watched it spread, soaking the fabric, ruining one more piece of my life. "Enough. Both of you. Enough. Mom, You are going to apologize to Ashley right now. You are going to thank her for the food, and you are going to give her what she is asking for. Did you hear me? No. A single word. 2 letters. But they weighed like a mountain. Like 67 years of life. Like decades of being a mother, of being a woman, of being human. Like all the accumulated exhaustion of an entire existence dedicated to a son who is now shoving my head against a plate. What did you say? I said no, Tyler. I am not going to apologize. I am not going to say thank you. And I am definitely not going to pay $10,000 to eat my own food in my own house. The silence that followed was worse than the screaming. It was the kind of silence that comes before a tornado. The kind of silence that tells you something terrible is about to happen, and there is no way to stop it anymore. Tyler looked at me with a hatred I never thought I would see in my son's eyes. Ashley had that smile again. That smile that said she had won something, even if I did not know what it was yet. Fine, Mom. That is fine. We will see who is right here. We will see who needs who in this house. They turned around and walked out of the kitchen together, leaving me alone with the dirty dishes, the wet tablecloth, and the weight of a truth I had been avoiding for months. My son had turned into a stranger, and that stranger was living in my house, breathing my air, and treating me like I was an obstacle in his path. I sat down in the chair, trembling, not from fear, not from sadness, but from something new, something that was barely starting to take shape inside my chest. It was rage. But not the hot rage that makes you scream and break things. It was cold rage. The rage that thinks. The rage that plans. The rage that waits for the exact moment to strike. I looked at the food on the table. It was still steaming. It smelled good. I had to admit that. But every mouthful would have the taste of humiliation. Every bite would be a reminder that my own son had shoved my head, that my daughter-in-law had the audacity to charge me for using my own things. I did not touch the food. I stood up, took the plates, and threw them directly into the trash. Everything. Every piece. Every bite of that dinner that was supposedly worth $10,000. I threw it away like you throw away garbage, because that was exactly what it was. I stood in front of the sink, staring at the empty plates in the trash can. My hands were shaking. But it was not from weakness. It was from something that had been stored away for years. Something that was finally starting to wake up. 67 years. That is me. Margaret Miller. A woman who was born in a small house where money was never enough, but love was always plentiful. A woman who learned to sew her own clothes at 8 years old because there was no money to buy new ones. A woman who worked since she was 14, cleaning other people's houses to help her widowed mother. I bought this house. With my own hands. With my own sacrifices. Every brick, every window, every door is soaked in my sweat. I worked 32 years as a housekeeper, then 10 more years at a dry cleaner. My hands are marked by bleach, by hot water, by the endless hours folding other people's clothes. But I bought this house. It is small, I know. 2 bedrooms, a living room, a kitchen, 1 bathroom, nothing fancy. Nothing that would impress anyone. But it is mine. Completely mine. I made the last mortgage payment 5 years ago, and I cried that day as if I had won the lottery. Because, in a way, I had. A woman like me, with my history, with my limitations, owned a piece of land in this world. I sat at the kitchen table, the same table where I eat breakfast every morning. Always the same thing. Coffee with milk, 2 pieces of toast with butter, sometimes a slice of cheese if the money stretches. My Social Security check is not much. $700 a month. That is all I have after 42 years of work. $700 for food, for electricity, for water, for gas, for medicine. I have diabetes. Nothing serious yet, but I have to take care of myself. The pills cost $60 a month. The doctor, when I have to go, is another $50. Every dollar counts. Every cent has a destination marked before it even reaches my hands. The house smells old. It is not dirty, because I clean every day, but it smells like time, like years, like a life lived. The walls have water stains in the corners. The paint is peeling in some places. The sofa in the living room has worn upholstery where I sit every afternoon to watch TV. I do not have much, but what I have is mine, or at least it was. Until Tyler came back. My son, my only son. The boy I carried in my womb for 9 months, whom I nursed for 2 years, whom I raised alone after his father walked out on us when he was barely 3 years old. I remember those days as if they were yesterday. Nights spent crying, wondering how I was going to feed him, how I was going to give him what he needed. But I did it. I worked double shifts, triple shifts. I took jobs on weekends, on holidays, at night. Tyler never went hungry. He never lacked clothes. He never had to drop out of school because I could not pay. I gave everything for him, everything. And now he was here, in my kitchen, with the echo of his shouts still resonating in the walls. Old woman, that phrase, like spit, as if my age were a defect, as if the years I spent raising him were something to be ashamed of. I got up and walked toward my bedroom. It is the smaller of the two. When Tyler was a kid, he had the big one. I slept in this one, barely bigger than a closet. A twin bed, an old dresser with a cracked mirror, a wooden chair where I stacked the clean laundry. I sat on the bed and the mattress creaked under my weight. I am thinner than before. I have lost almost 20 pounds in the last year. It is not on purpose. It is just that sometimes I am not hungry. Sometimes loneliness weighs more than any meal. Why am I alone? That is the truth. I try not to look at directly. My mother died 12 years ago. My father long before that. I have no siblings. I have no close cousins. My friends, the few I had, died or drifted away over the years. Old age is like that. It leaves you alone, little by little, until one day you look around and there is no one. Just Tyler. That is why I put up with so much. That is why I let him come back. That is why I accepted him bringing Ashley, because the idea of being completely alone terrified me more than anything. But now I wonder if being alone would not have been better. Tyler arrived 6 months ago. He knocked on the door on a Tuesday afternoon with 2 large suitcases and that woman on his arm, Ashley. She smiled at me with all her teeth. She called me sweet mother-in-law with a voice as sweet as honey and told me they only needed to stay a couple of weeks while they found their own place. We had some problems with the last apartment, Mom. The landlord was a crook. He kicked us out for no reason. But we will find something better. We just need a little time. And I, like the fool I am, opened the door. I gave them the big bedroom. I made space in the closet. I prepared clean sheets. I cooked a special dinner that first night. Roast chicken with potatoes, Tyler's favorite dish when he was a boy. That night we ate together, and for the first time in years I did not feel alone. There were voices in my house. There was laughter. There was life. I thought that maybe, just maybe, everything was going to be all right. How naive I was. The 2 weeks turned into a month. The month turned into 2, then 3, then 6. And they never spoke about looking for another place again. It was as if they had decided that my house was their house, that my space was their space, that everything of mine was theirs. At first, it was small things. Ashley moved the furniture in the living room without asking. It looks better this way, do not you think, Margaret? It was not a real question. It was a statement. The furniture stayed where she wanted it. Then she started using my bathroom, the only one I have, as if it were a beauty salon. She left her creams everywhere, her makeup, her perfumes. The sink was always dirty with the remnants of her routine. When I asked her to clean up after using it, she looked at me as if I were ridiculous. Margaret, relax. It is just a little mess. It is not that serious. Then came the food. At first, they cooked their own groceries, but little by little they started using my ingredients. My oil, my salt, my spices, my rice, my beans. Everything I bought with my Social Security check, they used as if it were an infinite resource. Mom, do not be like that. We are family. We share everything. No. Sharing. That word people use to justify taking what is not theirs. And I stayed silent. I always stayed silent, because I was afraid. Afraid that if I said something, if I set a boundary, Tyler would leave again, and I would be alone again. But the loneliness of an empty house is different from the loneliness of a house full of people who ignore you. Tyler did not talk to me like before anymore. He did not ask how I was. He did not sit with me to watch TV. He spent the entire day in the bedroom with Ashley, or he went out to the street without saying where he was going. Sometimes he came back drunk. Sometimes he did not come back all night. And Ashley, that woman who called me sweet mother-in-law the first day, now barely looked at me. When I spoke to her, she answered with one-word answers. When I entered a room, she left. It was like living with ghosts that occasionally materialized to criticize me. Margaret, this house is very cluttered. Can't you clean better? Margaret, the food you make is very plain. Do not you know how to cook anything else? Margaret, why do you have the TV so loud? You are not letting us sleep. Everything was my fault. Everything I did was wrong. And the worst part is I started to believe it. I started to think maybe I was an annoying old woman, that maybe I was a burden, that maybe I should be grateful that they were even here with me. But tonight, when Tyler shoved my head toward that plate, when Ashley demanded $10,000 for cooking with my own food, something changed. I looked at myself in the mirror of the dresser. A 67-year-old woman stared back at me. Gray hair, short, because I no longer have the strength to keep it long. Wrinkles around the eyes, on the forehead, at the corners of the mouth. Hands stained, with veins showing, with fingers slightly twisted by the arthritis that is just beginning. But in those eyes there was something new, something I had not seen in a long time. There was rage. And behind the rage, there was decision. The first few days after Tyler arrived with Ashley, I felt renewed, as if the house had woken up from a long and silent sleep. There was movement, there was conversation, there were reasons to cook more than necessary. It was no longer just me and my empty routines. I remember that first morning. I got up early, as always, but this time there was a different reason. I brewed coffee for 3. I set the table with care. I took out the nice mugs, the ones I keep for special visitors. I made scrambled eggs, warmed up some toast, cut up fresh fruit. When Tyler came out of the bedroom, eyes still puffy with sleep, he smiled at me. A small smile, but real. "Smells good, Mom." Those 3 words filled my heart. It had been so long since anyone appreciated my cooking, so long since anyone noticed my efforts. Ashley came out later, wrapped in a silk robe that looked expensive. Too expensive for someone who had supposedly just lost their apartment. But I did not say anything. I just smiled and offered her coffee. "Thanks, mother-in-law." She touched my shoulder as she passed, a gesture that in that moment seemed affectionate. We ate breakfast together that morning. Tyler told me he was looking for work, that he had some interviews scheduled. Ashley said she was also going to look for something soon, but that first, she needed to get settled a bit. "I understand, dear," I told her, and I meant it. I thought maybe we could be like a real family, that maybe this was my second chance not to be alone. How blind I was. The first sign came 2 days later. I arrived from the grocery store carrying the bags. Like I do every week? It is not easy for me. My knees are not what they used to be. Walking 3 blocks to the bus stop, waiting under the sun, carrying the bags back. Everything costs me double what it used to. When I entered the house, I found the living room completely reorganized. The sofa was in a different place. The coffee table had been moved toward the window. My photographs, the ones I had placed with such care on the shelf, were piled up in a corner. Ashley was standing in the middle of the living room, admiring her work. "What do you think, Margaret? It looks much better like this, right? This house needed a change urgently. It was very outdated. The bags almost fell from my hands. I looked at my living room, which no longer looked like my living room. I looked at my photographs cast aside as if they were trash. Ashley? I preferred it how it was before." "Oh, Margaret, you have to adapt to change. You cannot stay in the past forever. This is much more modern. You will see how you get used to it." Tyler was sitting on the sofa, looking at his phone. He did not look up. He did not say anything. It was as if he had not heard the conversation, or as if he did not care. I put away the groceries in silence. That night, when they went to sleep, I moved the furniture back to its original place. It took me 2 hours. My back hurt for 3 days. But I needed my house to be my house again. The next morning, Ashley noticed immediately. "You moved everything again." Her voice was no longer sweet. There was an edge there, something sharp, Yes, I prefer how it was. How boring you are, Margaret. You never want to change anything. And she went to the bedroom, closing the door harder than necessary. After that, things started to change faster. Ashley started using my bathroom as if it were hers. I had my little routine. I showered at 6 in the morning, before the sun came up. It was my moment of peace. The hot water on my aching back, the steam filling the small space, that moment of solitude that prepared me for the day. But Ashley started getting up at 6 too. She would knock on the bathroom door insistently. Margaret, I need to get in. I have to get ready. I am in the shower. Ashley, you can wait 10 minutes. I cannot wait. I have things to do. What things? She never left the house. She had no job. She had no interviews. But according to her, her things were more urgent than mine. I started showering faster. 5 minutes instead of 10. I stopped enjoying that moment. It turned into a race against time, always with the pressure of knowing she was waiting on the other side. Impatient, annoyed, and when I came out, she entered like a hurricane. She left the bathroom a disaster. Water everywhere, wet towels on the floor, beauty products scattered over the sink, makeup stains on the mirror. The first time I asked her to clean up after using it, she looked at me as if I had asked something offensive. Margaret, I am not your maid. If the bathroom is dirty, clean it yourself. It is your house. No. My house. Yes. My house that she was using, my bathroom that she was dirtying. But I was the one who had to clean. Then came the issue of food. At first, they bought their own items. I saw when Tyler arrived one afternoon with 2 bags from the supermarket. I thought it was a good sign, that they were being responsible. But those 2 bags lasted 3 days. After that, they started using mine. One day I opened the cupboard and the bag of rice was half empty. I had barely used a little. I opened the refrigerator and 4 eggs were missing. I checked the pantry and the oil was almost empty. Tyler, I told him that night, trying to sound casual, you guys are using the food from the pantry. Just a little, Mom. Do not be stingy. When we have money, we will buy more. When we have money. That phrase became the answer for everything. When we have money, we will buy more food. When we have money, we will pay the electric bill. When we have money, we will contribute to the expenses. But that day never came. And meanwhile, my $700 check was stretching less and less. The electric bill went up to almost double. 3 people use more water, more electricity. The food did not last me the whole month anymore. I had to go back to the store every 2 weeks instead of once a month. I started buying less meat, less fruit, less of everything. But it still was not enough. One afternoon, 2 months after they arrived, I sat down to do the math. I had an old notebook where I wrote down all my expenses. I have always been careful with money. You have to be when there is so little. Electricity, $120. Water, $40. Gas, $30. Food, $300. Medicine, $60. Phone, $25. Total, $575. I had $125 left for everything else. For any emergency. For the bus. For soap. For toothpaste. For anything I might need. Before, when I lived alone, I had $300 left at the end of the month. It was not much, but it allowed me to save a little. It allowed me to buy something nice for myself every once in a while. A new dress. A pair of shoes when mine wore out. Now there was nothing extra. And the $125 slipped through my fingers like water. Mom, can you lend me $20? I need to go to a job interview. Mom, do you have $10? I am craving a coffee. Mom, can you give me $50? Ashley needs to go to the doctor. And I gave. I always gave. Because he was my son. Because I thought I was helping him. Because I believed that when he found a job, he would pay me back everything. But he never found a job. Or if he went to interviews, they never called him back. Or if they called, the job was not what he expected. There was always an excuse. There was always a reason why nothing worked out. And meanwhile, Ashley painted her nails in my living room. She watched TV all day. She ordered takeout food that I did not know how they paid for. She wore new clothes that I did not know where they came from. One night, rather late, I heard voices in their bedroom. They were arguing. The wall separating my room from theirs is thin. You can hear everything. You have to ask your mother for more money, Ashley was saying. She has this house. She has her check. She can help us more. I already asked her for enough, Tyler replied. It is not enough. We need at least $200 more a month if we are going to stay here. Stay here, as if it were permanent. As if this house were theirs now. I cannot ask her for more. She is already tight with money. Then we sell something. That old TV she has, or those furniture pieces. Something has to be worth something. My heart stopped. They were talking about selling my things, my belongings, the few things I had in this world. Ashley, we cannot do that. Why not? She is old. What does she need all those things for? We are young. We have a life ahead of us. She already lived hers. She already lived hers. As if my life had ended. As if I no longer mattered. As if I were just an obstacle in their path. After that night, something changed in the way I looked at them. They were no longer my son and daughter-in-law looking for temporary help. They were two people who had decided that my life, my house, and my money were resources they could dispose of freely. The micro-invasions became bolder, more shameless. One morning I came down to the kitchen and found Ashley pouring my coffee into one of my favorite mugs. Not just any mug. The blue mug with white flowers my mother gave me before she died. The only one left from the whole set. Ashley, please use another mug. That one is special to me. She took a long sip, looking at me over the rim of the mug. It is just a mug, Margaret. Do not be so attached to material things. That is not healthy at your age. At my age. As if being 67 years old stripped me of the right to care for what mattered to me. That same afternoon, the mug appeared in the sink, with a crack in the handle. When I asked her what happened, Ashley shrugged. It fell. Things happen. It was old anyway. The mug was 40 years old. It had survived moves, earthquakes, decades of careful use. But 2 months with Ashley and it was broken. Their friends started coming over. They never asked if they could invite people. They just showed up. Sometimes 2 people, sometimes 5. They sat in my living room, played loud music, smoked near the window even though I had asked them 1,000 times not to do it. Tyler, please tell your friends to respect the house rules. Mom, do not be boring. They are just hanging out. What is wrong with that? What was wrong was that I felt like a stranger in my own home. What was wrong was that I could not rest. What was wrong was that I found cigarette butts in the garden, beer cans hidden behind the plants, stains on the sofa that would not come out with anything. One night, around 11, the music was still loud. I had to get up early the next day to go to the doctor. I had my diabetes checkup, the one I had been waiting 2 months for. I knocked on their bedroom door. Nobody answered. The music was too loud. I knocked harder. Tyler opened the door with a frown. What is it now? The music. Son, it is very late. I need to sleep. It is 11, Mom. It is not that late. For me it is. I have to go to the doctor tomorrow morning. Well, put in earplugs then. We are in our room. We can do what we want. Our room. My room. The one I used for years. The one I lent them thinking it would be temporary. Now it was theirs. And I was the intruder asking for silence in my own house. I did not sleep that night. The music went on until 2 in the morning. When it finally turned off, I was already so tense I could not rest anyway. I went to the doctor the next day with bags under my eyes down to the floor. The doctor scolded me. My blood pressure was high. My sugar levels were not where they should be. He asked me if I was eating well, if I was sleeping enough, if I had a lot of stress. I lied. I told him everything was fine. Because what was I going to tell him? That my own son was driving me crazy in my own house, that I could not sleep, that I barely ate because I had to ration the food to make it last for 3, that the stress was killing me slowly. He prescribed new pills, more expensive than the previous ones. $80 a month instead of $60, $20 more that I did not have. When I got home, Tyler was in the kitchen, alone. It was rare to see him without Ashley glued to his side. How did it go with the doctor? For a moment, I saw a flash of the boy he had been. That boy who worried when I was sick, who brought me glasses of water, who sat by my side. I need new medicine. It is a little more expensive. How much? $80. Tyler whistled low. That is a lot, Mom. I know, but I need it. I waited. A part of me, a stupid and hopeful part, thought maybe he would offer to help, that maybe he would say he had gotten some money, that maybe he would remember that I had paid for his medicines for years when he was a child. Well, you will have to adjust on something else then. We all have to make sacrifices. He got up and went to his room. He left me sitting there, with the prescription in my hand, feeling more alone than ever. That night, I checked my expenses again. There was nowhere to get $20 extra. I had already cut everything I could cut. I was already buying the cheapest brands at the store. I had already canceled cable. I was using the gas as little as possible. The only option was to eat less, skip meals, make the rice and beans last longer, buy less protein, less fresh vegetables. I started doing exactly that. I ate breakfast consisting only of coffee with one piece of toast. I ate a small portion of whatever there was for lunch. Sometimes I ate dinner, sometimes not. I lost 8 pounds in 3 weeks. Meanwhile, Ashley and Tyler ate well. They did eat dinner every night. They did serve themselves large portions. Sometimes Ashley cooked, but always with my ingredients, and she always cooked just for the two of them. "Are you not going to cook for me too?" I asked one afternoon. "Oh, Margaret, I thought you were on a diet. I have seen you eating less. I did not want to tempt you with heavy food. I was not on a diet. I was starving so they could eat. But I did not say anything. I never said anything. Because I was afraid. Afraid that if I complained, if I set limits, if I demanded respect, they would leave, and I would be alone again. The irony is that I was already alone, more alone than ever, because the loneliness of being surrounded by people who ignore you is worse than the loneliness of an empty house. One day, looking for a skillet in the cupboard, I found my box of tea empty. It was a special tea my neighbor Betty had brought me from her trip, an herbal tea that helped me sleep. I guarded it like gold. I drank only 1 cup every night before bed. The box was empty, but I could still smell the aroma. Someone had finished it. "Ashley, you drank my tea." "What tea?" "The one in the green box. The herbal one." "Oh, that. Yeah, it was good. Why? Did you want some?" "There is none left. It was mine. It was special. It was a gift. Margaret, do not be selfish. Tea is for drinking, not for saving. If you wanted to keep it, you should have hidden it better. I should have hidden it. In my own house. I should have hidden my own things so they would not be stolen from me." That night, I started keeping certain things in my bedroom. A package of crackers. A chocolate bar I had bought for myself. The good shampoo I used only on Sundays. The tissues. Everything I did not want to share. I felt ridiculous. A 67-year-old woman hiding crackers in her room like a child. But it was that or lose everything. The criticism also increased. Everything I did was wrong. "Margaret, why do you wash clothes with cold water? They do not get clean that way. Margaret, this food is very salty. Margaret, why do not you open the windows? This house smells musty. Margaret, why do you have so many old things? You should throw all this out." It was never a request. It was never a polite suggestion. It was always a criticism. It was always a pointer that I was doing something wrong. And Tyler never defended me. He never said to Ashley, "Do not talk to my mother like that." He never intervened. Sometimes he even laughed with her, as if I were the joke, as if my way of living, my habits, my way of being, were things to mock. I started walking on tiptoes in my own house. Literally, I tried not to make noise, not to bother, not to be in the way. I got up earlier to use the bathroom before them. I went to sleep later so as not to interrupt if they were in the living room. I ate in the kitchen standing up so as not to dirty the table. I was becoming invisible in my own life. One afternoon, Betty came to visit me. I had not seen her for weeks. She lived 2 houses down. We had been friends for 20 years. "Margaret, what happened to you? You are so thin. Are you eating well?" "I am fine, Betty. Just a little tired. How is everything with Tyler and his wife?" I looked toward the bedroom where they were. The door was closed. I could hear the murmur of the television. Good. Everything is good. Betty looked at me with those eyes that knew all my lies. "Margaret, if you need anything, tell me. I am here for you." I wanted to cry. I wanted to tell her everything. I wanted to tell her that I felt like a prisoner in my own home, that I was spending all my money on people who did not respect me, that I was slowly dying of sadness and exhaustion. But I said nothing. I just smiled and offered her coffee. Betty stayed for an hour. We talked about unimportant things, about the weather, about the neighbor who had moved, about grocery prices that were getting worse. But the whole time I felt a knot in my throat, a pressure in my chest that would not let me breathe right. When Betty left, I stayed sitting in the living room, alone, looking at walls that no longer felt like mine, the furniture that Ashley had reorganized again without asking me, the photographs that were now stored in a box because they made the house look outdated. One of those photographs was of Tyler at 6 years old. He was smiling, showing the gap where a tooth had fallen out. I was behind him, hugging him. We were both happy in that image. We were both different. At what moment did everything change? At what moment did my son stop seeing me as his mother and start seeing me as a resource, as something useful he could squeeze until nothing was left? The days turned into weeks, the weeks into months, and every day was a little worse than the last. One morning I woke up and could not find my toothbrush. I searched the whole bathroom. Nothing. Finally, I found it in the trash can. Who threw away my toothbrush? Ashley came out of the bedroom yawning. Me. It was very old. I bought you a new one. It is on the sink. Sure enough, there was a new toothbrush, but it was the cheapest kind that existed. My old brush was not expensive, but it was the one I liked, the one I had been using for months, and she simply threw it away without asking me. Ashley, you cannot throw away my things without consulting me. Margaret, it was an old toothbrush. I did you a favor. Say thank you. Say thank you for throwing away my brush, for replacing it with one she chose, for making a decision about my life without my permission. That same day, when I went to look for my favorite sweater, the gray wool one I wore when it was cold, I did not find it. I looked in my closet, in the drawers, in the laundry. Have you seen my gray sweater? I donated it, said Ashley from the living room, without even turning to look at me. It was very worn out. It did not fit you well anymore. You donated it? My sweater? Without asking me. Margaret, you need to update your wardrobe. Everything you have is old and depressing. I was cleaning and decided that sweater had to go. There are people who need it more than you. That sweater had been knitted by my mother. Every stitch was a memory. Every strand of yarn carried her love, and Ashley had given it away as if it were garbage. I felt something break inside me. It was not dramatic. It was not an explosion. It was silent, like a crack opening slowly in a wall. Small at first, but over time it ends up destroying the entire structure. I want you to get that sweater back. I already gave it to the church drive. Margaret, it is gone. Get over it. Tyler entered at that moment. He saw my face. He saw the tears that were starting to form in my eyes. What is wrong now? Your wife gave away my sweater, the one my mother knitted for me. I waited. I hoped he would understand, that he would say something, that he would defend even that little piece of memory. Mom, it was just a sweater. It was really old anyway. Ashley is right. You need new clothes. You look sloppy lately. You see me as sloppy, because I am spending all my money feeding you, because I cannot afford to buy myself new clothes, because I am choosing between my medicine and a pair of new shoes. I said nothing. I turned around and went to my room. I closed the door. I sat on the bed and cried. I cried for the sweater. I cried for my mother who was no longer here. I cried for the son I had lost without realizing it. And in that moment of pain, something else began to grow. Something cold, something hard, something that had been asleep for years. Buried under layers of maternal guilt and fear of loneliness, it was conscience, clarity, understanding. I understood that this was not going to get better, that they were not going to change, that every day was going to be worse, that eventually nothing would be left of me, not of my money, not of my belongings, not of my dignity. They were erasing me, slowly, systematically, and I was allowing it. That night, I stayed awake late. I took out my notebook where I kept the accounts. I reviewed everything, every expense, every cent that had left my pocket in the last 6 months. Before they arrived, my monthly expenses were $400. I had $300 left in savings every month. In 6 months, I would have saved $1,800. Now, my expenses were $575. I had $125 left, but those $125 were being lent to Tyler. 20 here, 30 there, 50 for this, 40 for that. I did the math. In 6 months, I had given Tyler $1,200 in loans that he never mentioned paying back. And that is without counting the extra food, the extra electricity, the extra water, the extra gas. In total, Tyler and Ashley had cost me approximately $3,000 in 6 months. $3,000. More than 4 months of my Social Security payments. Money that I had saved for years for emergencies, for when I got sick, for when I needed something urgent. To have a little security in my old age. And now there was nothing left. I had dipped into my savings. The $1,200 I had kept in the bank were gone. I had spent them on food, on utilities, on loans they were never going to pay me back. I closed the notebook. I looked at the ceiling of my room. The water stains were still there, a little bigger than before. The paint was peeling in a corner. It needed repairs. But I had no money for that. I had no money for anything. The following days were the same. Ashley giving orders in my house. Tyler ignoring me. Both of them acting as if I were the guest and they were the owners. One afternoon, Ashley started moving the furniture in my bedroom. I walked in and found her moving my dresser from its place. "What are you doing? This dresser would look better in our room, and you do not even use it. It just gathers dust." "Ashley, that dresser is mine. It was my mother's. You cannot take it. Do not be so materialistic, Margaret. They are just things. Besides, we are going to use it. You just have it there for decoration." Something inside me said enough. It was not a shout. It was a whisper, but it was firm. "You are not taking that dresser. Excuse me, that you are not taking that dresser. It is mine. Keep it in your room." Ashley looked at me as if I had grown another head. She was not used to me saying no. No one in this house was used to it. "Tyler!" shouted Ashley toward the living room. "Your mother is being difficult again." Tyler arrived with a look of annoyance. "What is going on? She does not want us to move the dresser to our room." "Mom, what is the problem? You do not use it. The problem is that it is mine. The problem is that you have no right to take my things. The problem is that this is still my house." The words came out stronger than I expected. Clearer. More decided. Tyler narrowed his eyes. "Your house. Always your house. You know what, Mom? We are here helping you, keeping you company. So you are not alone like an abandoned old woman. And this is how you thank us. Helping me? Spending my money is helping me? Giving away my things is helping me? Disrespecting me is helping me? You are exaggerating, like always, dramatizing everything." "I am not dramatizing. I am telling the truth. And the truth is that you are abusing me." Ashley let out a laugh, a cruel laugh. Mocking. "Abusing? Margaret, please. We are doing you a favor by staying here. This house was dead before we arrived. You were dead. At least now you have a reason to get up in the mornings. My reason to get up. As if they were a gift. As if I should be grateful for this hell. I want you to start looking for another place to live." The words came out. Finally, they came out. After months of swallowing them, of keeping them, of being afraid to say them, the silence that followed was dense, heavy, dangerous. Tyler took a step toward me. His face had changed completely. There was no longer a trace of the boy I knew. There was only a furious man, wounded in his pride. "You are kicking us out! I am asking you to look for your own place, like you said you would do when you arrived. We do not have money to move. You have had 6 months to save." "Save? With what? You know we have not found work, because you have not really looked for it." Ashley crossed her arms, looking at me with a contempt she did not even try to hide anymore. "How ungrateful you are, Margaret, after everything we do for you. What do you do for me? Tell me. What exactly do you do?" Neither answered, because there was no answer. They did nothing. They did not clean. They did not cook for me. They did not help with expenses. They did not keep me real company. They just existed in my space, consuming my resources, destroying my peace. "This is unbelievable," Tyler muttered. "My own mother wanting to throw us out on the street. I am not throwing you out on the street. I am asking you to look for your own place. It is the same thing. No, it is not the same thing. You are adults. I do not have the obligation to support you. The words sounded harsh even to me, but they were the truth. A truth I should have said months ago. Ashley pulled Tyler by the arm. Come on. We are not going to beg this bitter old woman. They went to their room and slammed the door. I heard the lock click. As if I were the intruder. As if they needed to protect themselves from me. I stood in my room, heart pounding. I had done something. Finally, I had set a limit. Small, but it was a limit. That night, neither of them came out of their room. Not for dinner, not to go to the bathroom. Nothing. It was like they were staging a silent protest. Fine, let them protest. I cooked for myself alone for the first time in months. I made just enough for me. I ate calmly in the kitchen. No rushing. Without feeling like I had to leave more for them. I slept poorly that night. I knew I had opened a door that could not be closed. That things were going to get worse before getting better. But something inside me had changed. I was not so afraid anymore. The following days were tense. Tyler and Ashley barely spoke to me. When they did, it was with cold monosyllables. They ignored me. They acted as if I did not exist. And strangely, that gave me peace. At least there was no constant criticism. There were no demands, just silence. But I knew it was not going to last. I knew my son. When things did not go his way, he always found a way to regain control. On Friday night, the blow came. I was in my room, reading an old book I had found at the bottom of the closet. I heard noises in the kitchen, murmurs, laughter, smell of food. I waited. I did not go out. I had already learned not to get involved in what they were doing. An hour later, they knocked on my door. Mom, come eat dinner. Ashley cooked something special. Tyler's voice sounded different, softer, almost like before. I hesitated. But a part of me, that part that still held on to hope, wanted to believe that maybe they had reflected, that maybe they were going to apologize, that maybe we could fix things. I left my room and went to the kitchen. The table was set. 3 plates, silverware, glasses with water. In the center was a large platter with roast chicken, golden potatoes, roasted vegetables. It looked beautiful. It smelled incredible. Sit down, Mom, Tyler said, pointing to my chair. I sat down, suspicious but hopeful. Ashley brought the platter and started to serve. First Tyler, then herself, finally me. A generous portion. The chicken looked juicy, the potatoes perfectly cooked. This looks very good, Ashley. Thanks, Margaret. I wanted to make something special, so you see that I do appreciate everything you do for us. There was something in her tone that did not convince me, but I wanted to believe. I wanted to believe this was real. We ate in silence for a few minutes. The food was delicious, really delicious. It had been a while since I ate something so well prepared. Do you like it, Mom? Yes, son. It is very good. Tyler and Ashley exchanged a look I could not read. I am glad, Ashley said, because it took me a long time to prepare. 3 hours, to be exact. Something in my stomach tightened. There was something weird about the way she said it. Well, the effort shows. Thanks for cooking. You are welcome, Margaret. Although, you know, work should be rewarded. I put the fork down on the plate. What do you mean? I mean, I spent 3 hours cooking. I used quality ingredients. I prepared everything with care. That has a value. My heart started beating faster. Ashley, you used the food I bought. The ingredients that are in my refrigerator. Exactly. I used your basic ingredients and transformed them into this. She pointed to the platter. That transformation has a cost. The cost of my time, of my knowledge, of my labor. Are you saying you want me to pay you for this dinner? I am saying that a dinner like this, in a restaurant, would easily cost $100. But since we are family, and because I used your ingredients, I'm going to charge you only $10,000. I sat motionless. Surely I had heard wrong. $10,000. That is right. It is a fair price considering the work I put in. Ashley, you are crazy. I'm not going to pay you $10,000 to cook with my own food in my own kitchen. It is the price, Margaret. Either you pay, or you do not value my work. Tyler kept eating, as if this conversation were the most normal thing in the world. "Tyler, are you listening to what your wife is saying?" I hear her, Mom. And she is right. Ashley worked hard. She deserves to be compensated. I could not believe what I was hearing. It was surreal, absurd, like a nightmare I could not wake up from. "I am not going to pay anything. This is ridiculous." Ashley put down her silverware calmly. She wiped her mouth with the napkin. She looked me straight in the eyes. "Then you are not welcome to eat this food. This food is for people who value other people's work. It is my food. I bought the ingredients, but I did the work, and the work is worth more than the ingredients. Anyone can buy chicken. Not anyone can prepare it like this." I stood up from the chair, furious. "You guys are insane, both of you. This is my house. This is my food. I am not going to pay to eat in my own house." Tyler also stood up. His face had hardened. "You know what your problem is, Mom? That you never value anything. You never appreciate what people do for you. Ashley killed herself cooking, and you can only complain. She is charging me $10,000, Tyler. Do not you see how absurd that is? What I see is an ungrateful old woman who does not deserve to have people taking care of her." The words hit me like stones. Ungrateful old woman. That was what I was to him now. Not his mother, not the woman who raised him. Just an ungrateful old woman. "I am not going to pay." "Then say thank you to my wife for the dinner. Thank her for the effort she made." "No." "What did you say?" I said no. I am not going to thank for something that was done with my own resources. I am not going to fake gratitude for abuse. Tyler took a step toward me. His eyes were lit with fury. And in that moment, I saw the danger. I saw that I had crossed a line from which there was no return. "Ungrateful to my wife for the dinner, old woman." The shout went through me. But before I could react, I felt his hand on the back of my neck. Strong, hard, pushing me down. "Whoa, calm down." She used my groceries from the store inside my kitchen. "You guys have gone crazy." But he did not stop. He kept pushing my head toward the plate. The smell of chicken was now mixed with my own humiliation, with my shame, with my pain. "Say thank you. Say thank you now." I managed to break free. I stumbled away. My neck hurt. My pride was destroyed. But something else was happening. Something I did not expect. I was not crying. I was not begging. I was not scared. I was cold, completely cold. I looked at both of them. At Tyler, with his hand still raised. At Ashley, with that satisfied smile on her face. And I understood. I understood that this had no fix, that there was no turning back, that my son was lost, and that I had been a fool to think I could get him back. That same day, you two lost not only the place where you were living, the words left my mouth. Firm, cold, definitive. Tyler laughed. That horrible laugh I already knew. "Are you going to kick us out, Mom? Really? You do not have the guts. You are too weak, too old, too lonely. You need us more than we need you." I looked him in the eyes, and for the first time in months, I did not look away. "We will see." I stood in front of them, neck still hurting from the shove. My heart was beating fast, but not from fear. It was something different, something I had never felt with such clarity. Tyler took another step toward me. His face was red, the veins in his neck standing out. It was as if all the accumulated rage of months had finally found an outlet. "We will see? That is all you have to say? We will see?" I did not answer. I looked at him as if he were a stranger, because that was exactly what he was, a stranger with my son's face. Ashley got up from the table. She approached Tyler and put a hand on his arm, not to calm him, but to encourage him. I saw it in her eyes, that spark of satisfaction. She was enjoying this. "Tyler, your mother clearly appreciates nothing we do. Maybe it is time she understands what it really means to be alone." "You are right," he said, without stopping looking at me. "Maybe she needs to learn a lesson." He came closer. Close enough that I could smell the alcohol on his breath. I had not noticed before. He had been drinking. That explained the sudden aggression. But it did not excuse it. "All your life you have been a martyr, right, Mom? Poor Margaret who sacrificed herself for her son. Poor Margaret who worked so hard. Poor Margaret, who gave everything. The words were like poison, each one designed to hurt. But you know what? I never asked you for any of that. I never asked you to be a martyr. That was your choice. And now you want me to pay you for that for the rest of my life. I never asked you to pay me anything. I only asked for respect. Respect. He laughed, a bitter, ugly laugh. You want respect? Then earn it. Because so far the only thing I see is an old woman who does not know how to adapt, who lives in the past, who clings to dead things like that horrible sweater, my mother's sweater. Of course he would mention it. Of course he would use that to hurt me. That sweater meant something to me. It was an old rag, like everything in this house, like you. Everything here is old, worn out, finished. Ashley smiled. That smile that chilled my blood. Tyler is right. Margaret, this house needs new life. It needs young people. It needs energy, not a bitter old woman clinging to dusty memories. It is my house. Your house, repeated Tyler, mocking. Always your house. And what are you going to do with it when you die, huh? Are you going to take it to the grave? Because you have no one else. You only have me. And when I am not here, you are going to die alone in this piece of junk house. The words should have hurt me. They should have broken me. But they did not. Because there was nothing left to break. Whatever he could destroy inside me, he had already destroyed. Maybe that is true, I said with a calm voice. Maybe I will die alone. But at least I will die in peace, without having to watch my own son turn into a stranger. The hand came before I could see it. Fast, strong. He hit me on the cheek with so much force I fell to the side. I managed to hold onto the back of a chair. The taste of blood filled my mouth. Do not talk to me like that. I am your son. You owe me respect. I touched my cheek. It burned. I knew it was going to leave a mark. I knew tomorrow I would have a bruise. But the weird thing was I did not care. The physical pain was minor compared to the pain I had been feeling for months. I owe you nothing anymore, Tyler. I straightened up. I looked him in the eyes. And I saw something I did not expect. I saw fear. Just a flash. But it was there. Because I was no longer begging. I was no longer crying. I was no longer being the mother desperate for his approval. What did you say? I said I do not owe you anything anymore. I gave you life. I raised you. I fed you. I educated you. I gave you everything I could. My debt is paid. More than paid. I am your son. You are always going to owe me. No, not anymore. Ashley stepped between us. Her face no longer had that smile. There was something else there. Something dark. Look, you stupid old woman. Let us make something very clear. We are not leaving this house. This is our house now. And if you do not like it, you are the one who can leave. It is my house. My name is on the deed. For now, she said with a cold smile. But you are old. Things happen. People fall. They get sick. They have accidents. And when that happens, who do you think is going to inherit this house? Your only son. Us. It was a threat. Clear. Direct. They were telling me they were waiting for me to die. Or worse, that they were considering speeding up the process. Fear tried to creep in. Tried to paralyze me. But I had come too far to turn back now. Get out of my house. Now. Tyler laughed. He laughed in my face, inches away. Or what? Are you going to call the police? Are you going to kick your own son out on the street? Go ahead, do it. But when you hang up that phone, when the cops leave, we will still be here. And then you are going to see what hell really is. Ashley walked to the table and picked up the plate that had been mine. The chicken that was supposedly worth $10,000. She took it straight to the trash can and threw it away. There is your dinner, Margaret. In the trash. Where it belongs. Like you. She picked up the next plate. Tyler's. Also into the trash. Then hers. All the food she had prepared, all that special dinner, went into the garbage can. Do you see what you did? You wasted all this food, all this effort, all because of being selfish. They turned around and walked toward their bedroom. But before entering, Tyler turned back. I hope you enjoy your empty house, Mom. I hope you enjoy being alone, because that is all you are going to have. You are going to die here, alone, with no one to worry about you. And when they find you, You will probably already be cold. Maybe days will pass before anyone notices you are missing." They entered the room and closed the door. I heard the lock, then music, loud, deliberately loud, to annoy me, to demonstrate that they still had control. I stood in the kitchen, my cheek burned, my neck hurt. My whole body was shaking, but not from fear, from rage, from determination, from something that had been asleep for 67 years and had finally woken up. I went to the bathroom. I looked in the mirror. My cheek was red, already swelling. Tomorrow it would be an ugly bruise. There was blood at the corner of my mouth where I had bitten my lip with the blow. But my eyes were different. There were no tears there anymore. There was no pleading. There was only ice. Cold, calculated, decided. I cleaned the blood. I splashed my face with cold water. I looked at myself one more time. And I made a decision. I was not going to call the police. Not now. Because he was right. The cops would come, ask questions. Maybe they would take Tyler for a few hours. But they would come back. And it would be worse. No. This required something different. Something more permanent. Something that ensured they could never hurt me again. I left the bathroom and went to my room. I locked the door. I took out my old phone, the one I barely used because calls cost money I did not have. I searched my contact list. There were only 10 numbers there. Betty, my neighbor, the doctor, the grocery store, the pharmacy, and one more. A number I had not dialed in years. Robert Bob Carter, my second cousin. The only family I had left on my mother's side. He was a lawyer. We had not spoken in almost 5 years, since his father's funeral. But he had always told me if I needed anything, to call him. I looked at the phone. My hands were trembling. Was I really going to do this? Was I really going to take action against my own son? I thought about the shove, about the hit, about the threats, about months of abuse, about my mother's sweater thrown away like trash, about my pension spent, about my peace destroyed, about my dignity trampled. I dialed the number. It rang 3 times before he answered. "Hello, Bob. It is Margaret. Margaret Miller." Margaret? My God. How long has it been? How are you? His voice was warm, genuine. Hearing it made me realize how much I had missed having someone who really cared. "Bob, I need help. I need legal help." There was a pause. When he spoke again, his tone had changed. It was professional, focused. "Tell me what happened." And I told him. Everything. From the day Tyler arrived with Ashley until tonight. The financial abuse, the emotional abuse, the hit. Bob listened in silence. He did not interrupt me. He did not judge me. He just listened. And when I finished, when the words finally ran out, there was a moment of silence before he spoke. "Margaret, what you are describing to me is elder abuse. It is very serious, and you have options. Legal options that can protect you. I do not want to get my son in trouble with the law, Bob. I just want them to leave me in peace. I understand. But you need to understand something. What happened tonight? The hit, that is assault. You would have the right to file a report. And with a restraining order, you could keep them out of your house." A restraining order against my own son. The idea should have horrified me, but instead, I felt relief. Relief knowing there was a way out. That I did not have to keep enduring this. What do I have to do? First, I need you to document everything. The bruise on your face. Take photographs, with the date. Then I need you to make a list of all the expenses you have had since they arrived, everything they have cost you, and if you have witnesses to any incident, their names and contact info. Betty, my neighbor. She has seen me. She has seen how I have changed. Perfect. Talk to her tomorrow. Explain the situation. And Margaret, this is important. Do not say anything about this to Tyler or Ashley. Not a word. We are going to prepare everything in silence, and when we are ready, we will act. How long will it take? If we work fast, we can have the eviction order in a week, maybe less. Since it is your house and you are the owner, you have every right to ask them to leave. And with evidence of abuse, the process will be faster. How much is it going to cost? I do not have much money, Bob. Do not worry about that right now. You are family. First we help you, then we figure out the details. Okay. The tears finally came. But they were not tears of pain. They were of relief, of hope, of knowing I was not completely alone after all. Thanks, Bob. You do not know how much this means to me. Margaret, you should have called me sooner, much sooner. But it is okay. The important thing is you called now. I am going to help you. I promise. We hung up after agreeing he would come see me the next morning, when Tyler and Ashley usually slept in late. He was going to bring the necessary papers. He was going to explain the whole process. I lay in bed that night, listening to the music still blasting from their room. But for the first time in months, it did not bother me, because I knew it was temporary, that this was going to end. I touched my swollen cheek. It hurt. But that pain had a purpose now. It was evidence. It was proof. It was the spark that had finally made me react. I fell asleep with a strange sensation. It was not happiness. Not yet. But it was something close to peace. The peace of knowing I had made a decision, that I had taken the first step. The next morning, I got up early. 6 in the morning. The house was silent. They were still asleep. Like always. I went to the bathroom and looked in the mirror. The bruise was worse than I thought. The whole cheek was purple, swollen. My lip was also inflamed. I took out my phone and took photographs, from different angles. With the date visible, I felt weird doing it, as if I were betraying my son. But then I remembered the shove, the hit, the threats. And I kept taking photos. At 7 in the morning, I knocked on Betty's door. She opened, still in her robe, coffee in hand. When she saw my face, she almost dropped the mug. My God, Margaret, what happened to you? Can I come in? I need to talk to you. She let me in. She sat me in her kitchen, served me coffee, and I told her everything. Every detail, every abuse, every humiliation, everything I had been keeping inside for months. Betty cried. She cried for me, because I had no tears left. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Why did you suffer all this alone? I was ashamed. I thought it was my fault, that if I was a better mother, if I was more patient, if I gave more, things would improve. Margaret, none of this is your fault. None. What they are doing to you is abuse. It is unforgivable. I know. Now I know. That is why I called Bob. He is coming today. He is going to help me get them out of my house. Betty took my hands in hers. You are doing the right thing. And count on me. For whatever you need. If you need a place to stay while they leave, my door is open. If you need me to testify as a witness, I will do it. Whatever, Margaret, whatever. Bob arrived at 9 in the morning. A man of 50. Tall, with graying temples and kind eyes that looked like my mother's. He entered with a briefcase. We sat in the kitchen, away from the bedroom where Tyler and Ashley were still sleeping. He took out papers. Lots of papers. He explained each one patiently. This is the eviction notice. You have full legal right to ask them to leave your property. We are giving them 72 hours to get out. If they do not, we go to the police. Only 72 hours. Given the circumstances of abuse, we can speed up the process. And with the evidence of the hit, if they refuse, we can ask for an immediate restraining order. He showed me the photographs I had taken. The bruise looked horrible on the phone screen, worse than in the mirror. This is another document. It is a report of the expenses you have had. According to your accounts, they have cost you approximately $3,000 in 6 months. You could sue him civilly for that money. Although I will be honest, it is unlikely you recover it if they have no resources. I do not care about the money. I just want them gone. Understood. Then we focus on that. The eviction. We spent 2 hours reviewing everything. I signed papers, answered questions. Betty came over and gave her testimony of what she had observed, how she had seen me deteriorate, how she had heard shouting, how she had once found me crying in the garden. When we finished, Bob put everything in his briefcase. I am going to file this today. By Monday, you should have the official order, and I will come personally to deliver it, with an officer to ensure there are no problems. And if they refuse, if they get violent, that is why the officer is coming. And Margaret, if at any moment before Monday you feel you are in danger, you call me, immediately. Understood. Understood. He hugged me before leaving. A strong, fatherly hug. It reminded me there were still good people in the world. People who helped without expecting anything in return. You are going to be okay, cousin, I promise. When he left, I stood in the kitchen, looking at the papers he had left for me. Copies of everything. Evidence that this was real. That finally I was doing something. I heard movement in the bedroom. They were waking up. Quickly I put the papers away in my room, at the bottom of the closet, under the old clothes. I came out as if nothing had happened. As if it were a normal day. Ashley was the first to come out. She looked at me, saw the bruise, and smiled. Good morning, Margaret. I see the hit left a mark. You should put some ice on that. I did not answer. I went to the kitchen and started making coffee, just for me. Tyler came out later. He also saw my face. But unlike Ashley, he looked away. There was something there. Guilt? Shame? Whatever it was, it did not last long. You are not going to make breakfast? He asked. Make your own breakfast. Are you still mad about last night? You exaggerated. Mom, you got dramatic, and I just reacted. It was your fault. My fault. Of course it was my fault. In his twisted mind, everything was always my fault. Think what you want, Tyler. I drank my coffee in silence. I ignored them completely. They acted as if they expected me to cave, to apologize. To go back to being the submissive mother I had been for months. But that mother was gone. They had killed her themselves. Blow by blow, abuse by abuse. The weekend was weird. They acted normal. I acted normal. But there was tension in the air, like the calm before the storm. On Saturday, Ashley tried to cook again. She made pasta, just for the two of them. The smell filled the house. Before, that would have hurt me, would have made me feel excluded. Now I did not care. I ate my rice with eggs alone in my room. And it was fine. It was perfectly fine. Sunday night, Bob called me. Everything is ready. Tomorrow at 10 in the morning we will be there. Officer Davis will come with me. We are going to deliver the official eviction notice. They have 72 hours from that moment to get out, and if they say no, then the officer will explain the consequences. And if they still refuse, we can arrest Tyler for assault. We have the photographs, we have Betty's testimony, we have everything we need. That night I almost did not sleep. Not from fear, but from anticipation, from knowing that the next day, everything would change. That finally, I was going to get my life back. I got up early on Monday. I dressed with care. I put on my best dress, the light blue one with small flowers. I did my hair. I looked in the mirror. The bruise was still there, but it was healing, yellowish at the edges. At 10 sharp, they knocked on the door. I opened the door and there was Bob. Beside him, a uniformed police officer, tall, about 40 years old, with a serious but not threatening expression. Good morning, Margaret, Bob said. This is Officer Davis. Mrs. Miller, the officer greeted me with a nod. Come in, please. They entered. The sound of their steps in my living room filled me with a strange sense of power. For the first time in months, I was the one in control. Are they here? Bob asked in a low voice. In their room, still sleeping. Do you want me to wake them, or do you prefer to do it? I thought for a moment. Then I walked to their bedroom door and knocked. Loud, clear, without fear. Tyler, Ashley, come out. There are people who need to speak with you. I heard murmurs, complaints. Finally, the door opened. Tyler came out first, still in pajama pants, hair messy. When he saw the officer, he stopped dead in his tracks. What is going on here? Ashley appeared behind him. Her eyes went straight to the uniform, then to me. I saw the exact moment she understood. The moment fear replaced arrogance. Good morning, Bob said, taking a step forward. I am Robert Carter, Mrs. Margaret Miller's attorney, and this is Officer Davis. We are here to deliver an official eviction notice. He took the papers out of his briefcase. Official documents, with stamps, with signatures, eviction. Tyler's voice sounded incredulous. Mom, what did you do? What I should have done months ago. I asked for help. I am your son. You cannot kick us out like this. Bob walked over and held out the papers to Tyler. He did not take them, so Bob left them on the coffee table. These documents grant you 72 hours to vacate the property. That means you have until Thursday at 10 in the morning to remove all your belongings and leave the premises. This is ridiculous. She cannot do this. Officer Davis spoke for the first time. His voice was calm but firm. Yes, she can, sir. This is Mrs. Miller's private property. She has every legal right to ask you to leave. And you have the legal obligation to do so. Ashley finally found her voice. And we are supposed to go to the street? With nothing? Without money? That is not Mrs. Miller's problem, Bob replied. You are adults. You are responsible for finding your own place to live. But she is his mother. She has the obligation to help us. No, I said, surprising myself with how firm my voice sounded. I do not have that obligation anymore. I fulfilled it for decades. It is over. Tyler turned toward me. His face had gone from surprise to fury. You called the police for this? For a stupid argument? For a shove? For 6 months of abuse? I replied. For the punch you gave me. For the threats. For the systematic theft of my money and my peace. For everything. I did not steal anything from you. Bob took out another paper. According to the documentation we have, you and your wife have cost Mrs. Miller approximately $3,000 in the last 6 months, between unreturned loans, increased utility expenses, and consumed food. She could sue you civilly for that amount. Tyler's face turned white. She offered us all that. We are family. Family who abuses, said Officer Davis. And that is called domestic violence, especially when the victim is a senior citizen. He showed the photographs on his phone, the photos of my beaten face, the bruise in all its horrible glory. Did you do this, Mr. Miller? Tyler looked at the photos. He did not answer. I am going to ask you the question again. Did you hit your mother? It was not an accident. I interrupted. You hit me because I did not want to pay $10,000 for a dinner your wife made with my food. You shoved me. You yelled at me. You humiliated me in my own house. Ashley tried to intervene. That is not what happened. She is exaggerating. She is lying to make us look bad. Bob took out another paper. We have the testimony of a witness, Mrs. Betty Henderson, Mrs. Miller's neighbor. She has documented multiple incidents of verbal abuse, has seen Mrs. Miller's physical deterioration, and has witnessed situations of emotional violence. A nosy neighbor, Ashley spat. She knows nothing. She knows enough, said the officer. And with this evidence, if you do not comply with the voluntary eviction, I can arrest Mr. Miller for assault. Is that clear? The silence that followed was dense, heavy. Tyler looked at the papers on the table as if he could not believe what was happening. Ashley had her arms crossed, but her posture was no longer one of arrogance. It was defeat. 72 hours, Bob repeated. Thursday at 10 in the morning. If by that time you are not gone, we will return with a court order and the authority to remove your belongings by force. And, depending on your behavior, we could proceed with criminal charges. He turned toward me. Is there anything else you need to add, Margaret? I looked at my son, at that man who was once a child in my arms, at that stranger who had destroyed my peace, and I felt nothing. Not hate, not love, just nothing. No, everything has been said. Bob and the officer headed to the door. Before leaving, the officer turned one more time. Mr. Miller, Mrs. Miller, I recommend you cooperate. Pack your things. Find a place to stay. And do not cause any trouble. If Mrs. Miller reports any incident, any threat, any act of retaliation, I will come back. And it won't be to deliver papers. Understood? Both nodded. Small head movements. Defeated. When the door closed behind them, I stayed standing in my living room. Tyler and Ashley were still there, motionless, as if they did not know what to do. Finally, Tyler spoke. I cannot believe you did this. I cannot believe you forced me to do it either. I am your son. You were. Now I do not know what you are. Ashley pulled Tyler by the arm. Come on. We have to start packing. They went to their room. I heard the sound of drawers opening, of things being moved, of low voices arguing. I sat on the sofa. My sofa. In my living room, in my house, and I breathed. Deep. Complete. For the first time in months, I breathed without that weight on my chest. The following 3 days were strange. They packed. I continued with my routine. We did not speak. We did not look at each other. We were strangers, sharing a space temporarily. They tried to manipulate me. Of course. Tyler came one night when Ashley was in the shower. "Mom, please. Reconsider. We are family. We cannot end like this." "We ended, Tyler, a long time ago. What if I promise you we will change? That it will be different?" "I do not believe you, and I do not care anymore." He left without saying more. Ashley tried too, with a different approach. "Margaret, when Tyler and I leave, you are going to be alone again. Do you really want that? To die alone in this house? I prefer to die alone than to live accompanied by those who hurt me." Thursday arrived. 10 in the morning. Bob and Officer Davis returned. They knocked on the door. I opened. Did they leave? Not yet, but they are ready. Tyler and Ashley came out with their suitcases. The same 2 big suitcases they had arrived with 6 months ago. Now they looked fuller, probably with things of mine they were taking. But I did not care. Let them take what they wanted. As long as they left, they called a cab. We all waited in silence. The officer made sure there were no problems. When the cab arrived, they loaded the suitcases. Tyler stopped at the door. He looked at me one last time. "Are you going to regret this someday?" "No, I will not." They got into the cab. I watched it drive away down the street. I watched it disappear around the corner, and something inside me broke free, like a rope that had been pulling on my chest for months and finally snapped. "Are you okay?" Bob asked. "Yes, I am fine." They left after making sure everything was in order, after giving me emergency numbers in case Tyler tried to come back, after explaining that the restraining order was now active, that if he came within 100 yards of my house, I could call the police. I stayed alone in my house, really alone. For the first time in 6 months, I walked through every room. I opened windows. I let the fresh air in. I went to the room that had been theirs. It was empty. The bed unmade, some papers on the floor, a stain on the wall. I spent the next few days cleaning, erasing every trace of their presence. I washed the sheets. I cleaned the stains. I organized everything. I put my photographs back in their place. The one of Tyler at 6 years old I put in a box. Maybe someday I could look at it without pain, but not today. Betty came to visit me a week later. She brought me food. We sat in my living room, now clean, now tidy, now mine again. "How do you feel?" "Free," I replied. And it was true. For the first time in a long time, I feel free. "Have you heard anything from Tyler?" "No, and I hope it stays that way." My check was mine again. $700 that now was enough for me. That allowed me to live, to save a little, to buy myself things I needed. I went back to my routine: coffee in the mornings, grocery store on Tuesdays, television in the afternoons. But now it was different. Now it was peace. Now it was choice. Now it was my life. How I wanted it. One afternoon, I was watering the plants in the garden when I saw an older woman pass by on the street. She walked hunched over, with heavy bags from the market. She looked tired, defeated. I thought about myself a few months ago, about how I looked, about how I felt, and I understood something important. The loneliness I had feared so much, that loneliness that had made me accept the abuse, was not the worst thing that could happen to me. The worst was losing myself. It was letting others erase me. It was existing without dignity. Now I was alone. Yes, but it was a chosen loneliness, a dignified loneliness, a loneliness full of peace. My house smelled different now. It no longer smelled of tension, of fear, of contained rage. It smelled clean, of fresh coffee, of flowers from the garden. The water stains were still on the walls. The paint was still peeling. The sofa was still worn. But it was mine. Everything was mine, and no one could take it from me. Sometimes, at night, I thought about Tyler, about the boy he was, about the promise he represented, and I felt sadness. But it was no longer a paralyzing sadness. It was just the normal pain of a loss, of a son I chose to let go to save myself. I do not know what became of him. I do not know where he is. I do not know if he will ever understand what he did. And with time, I realized I did not need to know. I did not need his regret. I did not need his forgiveness. I only needed my peace, and I had it. Margaret Miller, 67 years old, owner of her house, owner of her life, owner of her peace, alone but free, and that was more than enough.